My 16-year-old stepdaughter was manipulated into hiding infidelity from me. My stepdaughter, whom I'll call Phoebe, lost her father when she was 7 years old. She remembers him as her hero. I try to keep his memory alive for her as much as I can. Phoebe's mother and her father were divorced when he passed away. I met him a few times and always admired how much he loved his daughter. We had about 2 years of co-parenting before his death, so I was there to support Phoebe and my wife. It was a difficult time for all of us. Phoebe was feeling isolated and confused. My wife was heartbroken, and I was devastated seeing both of them suffer. I did my best to offer support, even though we weren't well off. My main goal was never to replace her father, so I was surprised when Phoebe started calling me dad when she was 13. It still warms my heart every time she says it. As the years went by, Phoebe and I grew closer and learned how to navigate our unique family situation. About 6 months ago, my wife started distancing herself. I thought it was just a midlife crisis, but looking back, it was clear signs of infidelity. She had delayed work projects, business trips, and seemed distant. She didn't even want intimacy. At the same time, I noticed Phoebe was more anxious around her mother. She avoided me and spent less time with me, which hurt. I chalked it up to adolescent angst. I tried talking to Phoebe. She avoided me and either locked herself in her room or went out late. She wouldn't even tell me about her day. That's when I realized something was seriously wrong. I took a look at the iPad we shared and found messages from someone named Fiona. Turns out, Fiona was a 40-year-old man. I was overwhelmed with emotions, disgust, anger, and hurt. But one question kept bothering me. Why was Phoebe acting so strange? Next night, I was taking Phoebe to therapy, and I decided to ask her about her feelings regarding her mother working so much. This seemed to put her on the defensive. She raised her voice and insisted it didn't bother her. It was just work and everything was fine. We talked for a few minutes until she finally asked, that's when she dropped the bombshell. Not only had my wife been cheating on me for 8 months, Phoebe had caught her in the act. Felt betrayed. That feeling quickly turned to rage when Phoebe explained why she hadn't told me. Her mother had threatened her, saying it would be her fault if I left and never came back. As painful as it was, nothing could have prepared me for what Phoebe said next. I'm so sorry, really. I just didn't want to lose 2 dads. I don't think I could handle that again. Please don't leave, Dad. I tried to hide my emotions, assuring her that I wasn't going anywhere. But deep down, I was boiling. Hurting me was one thing, but bringing my daughter into this was unforgivable. I wanted to scream, cry, and make that woman suffer for what she had done to my daughter, but I knew that wasn't an option. All I could do at that moment was reassure my girl. That's what I had to do. I didn't tell my wife that I knew. I don't know what to do next. I'm angry. Update. My 16-year-old stepdaughter was manipulated into hiding her mother's infidelity from me. I wanted to give a quick update on the situation with Phoebe. I had to cut it short because I promised a very hungry teen some McDonald's. The first 6 hours were pretty tumultuous. Phoebe seemed visibly tense and anxious, probably fearing her mother would find out. She clung to me, even to the point of enduring a baseball game, sport she normally dislikes. Conversations with her mother were tinged with irritability, behavior I chose not to address as I normally would. It seemed like the dynamic of our relationship had shifted, with Phoebe now displaying the same volatile behavior I had once experienced. Slowly, she began to realize she was in a safe environment, started relaxing her control over me. However, behavior toward her mother remained short. Phoebe and I talked about what she wanted, and she expressed the desire for me to have full custody of her. She also opened up about some other emotional abuse she suffered from her mother. I reassured her I would do my best to obtain full custody, but explained that since I never officially adopted her, I might only get visitation rights. She also asked about emancipation, about which I admitted I knew very little, so we decided to look into it together. I really hope Phoebe can keep her grades up next year since she's on track for music scholarship to a good university. She's been spending a lot of time playing the violin since our talk, and I'm glad to see her using music as a way to cope. I'm not pushing her on school things right now, as it's the end of the year, and it won't affect her report card. I just hope she can get back to her usual motivated self by September. Phoebe is definitely not acting like a normal teen. She's starting to show a little of her old self again, which I'm thankful for. I was so happy when she started teasing me again. Still, can't help but wonder if she's hiding her true feelings behind her jokes. She tends to bottle up her emotions until she can't take it anymore. She hasn't said much other than feeling relieved not to hide things from me anymore, so I'm not sure if I should worry more. As for my wife, I wish I could say I've stopped caring about her, but a part of me still loves her. Try not to dwell on those thoughts for too long because I believe the best thing for Phoebe is for us to distance ourselves from her mother. I've reflected on my own childhood and how my feelings were often ignored when my parents made decisions. I never want Phoebe to feel that way, especially since she'll be the most affected by all of this. Phoebe is currently seeing 2 therapists, one specializing in complex post-traumatic stress disorder for events I haven't discussed here, and another specializing in obsessive-compulsive disorder. I have faith faith they will be able to support her during this painful time. I'm looking for a lawyer, and I've been keeping a bit of distance from my wife lately. It feels strange asking Phoebe to keep quiet about what I know, so I've decided not to bring it up. If she ends up talking about it, I won't be angry with her. I've been gathering evidence from text messages and bank statements, and I discovered my wife spent around $8,500 on the other guy. I can't believe how clueless I was. This will probably be the last update for a while. I'll update again once I speak with a lawyer and figure out exactly what I'll do. Thank you all so much for your support. I hope this has been a sufficient update on Phoebe's mental state. Update 2. Phoebe took her own life on June 17. Feels like it's my fault. I can't believe her bright light is just gone. The day before was Father's Day, and Phoebe brought up the topic of possibly being adopted, maybe even emancipated. My wife quickly turned into an argument, as her mother thought it would be a waste of time since Phoebe would turn 18 in a little over a year and a half. Phoebe kept arguing that it was for sentimental reasons, and that she had wanted to be adopted by me for so long. I don't know if my wife was just paranoid or if she already suspected that I knew about her infidelity. She started becoming more hostile. My wife ended up saying something like, "You would still have your real father if you hadn't stressed him out with illicit things." That was the breaking point. Phoebe completely broke down in a way I'd never seen before. She was cursing at her mother, crying, throwing things. Everything was so out of character that neither my wife nor I knew what to do. The rest of the night was eerily silent. Neither my wife nor Phoebe pushed the issue further. Phoebe cleaned up her mess, apologized to me for ruining my special day, and went upstairs. There was no warmth that night, no dinner at the table, silence. I think we were all in shock. I wish I could say in my last conversation with Phoebe something positive, but it wasn't. I wish I had told her how much I loved her, but I didn't. All I cared about was getting reimbursed for the damage she caused during her breakdown. Maybe if I hadn't been so selfish, I would have noticed how down she seemed. Maybe if I had handled the situation for what it really was, a mental breakdown rather than an act of defiance, she'd still be here. But she's not, and there's nothing I can do. I should have seen it coming. There were so many signs, and I was too stupid to see them for what they were until she didn't wake up. I could have gotten her more help, but I didn't. There were small things like, "Hey Dad, if I go, make sure you play Dreaming of You at my funeral, and if I go before you, make sure I'm wearing a suit instead of a dress in my coffin." And the one that seemed most obvious, "Play at your best, your love, my funeral for my boyfriendies." I thought these were just bad jokes that most teenagers make. I've never been so stupid in my life. The days leading up to her funeral are a blur. I could barely keep myself together on that day. I was so angry at my wife and also at Phoebe. I was angry because I should have heard her obvious cries for help. I was angry at myself not being available enough. I made sure all of her requests were honored. She was lowered into the ground with Dreaming of You playing on a speaker. I hadn't cried all day until then. Maybe I should have chosen one of the other songs she asked for, because that one shattered the stoic facade I was trying to maintain. I think it was both the tragedy behind the artist that my daughter held so close to her heart and the realization that Phoebe was truly gone. As she was being lowered, it was just my wife, me, Phoebe's boyfriend, and a few other very close people. The music was at a respectful volume. It was somehow deafening. That's it. She's just gone. Boyfriend wasn't handling it well, and he disappeared shortly after the reception following the burial. I felt terribly for him. I couldn't bring myself to say anything, which is another thing I regret. I'm starting the divorce process with my wife. I can't look at her without having flashbacks of the look on Phoebe's face when my wife said those horrible things. There's no coming back from that. That girl meant the world to me. Now it feels like there's no point in doing anything. My wife can take all of our assets. I don't care.
My wife of 16 years cheated on me. Hurts deeply. Pain comes back every time I think about what's happened over the last 7 to 8 months. A few months ago, I remember seeing a brief text exchange of just 2 messages between my wife and a guy named P, someone she knows through work. They don't work at the same place, but they met through a work-related program. The messages popped up on her phone, which was on the kitchen counter. By pure coincidence, I saw them. The messages had a slightly flirty tone, but I didn't dwell on it and chose not to confront her about it specifically. However, I did make a passing comment about how I'd read on Reddit that people who cheat often cover their tracks by deleting messages. We've had some issues in our bedroom, and I've been trying to understand and manage that by reading about libido and relationships. She rarely initiates intimacy, and when I do, I often face rejection. Pretty common scenario for us. Then, about a month ago, she got an IUD for birth control. I don't enjoy using condoms, but that wasn't really a big issue for us before. I figured she just wanted to make things more spontaneous, which might help with our intimacy problems. On Memorial Day weekend, she took us to P's house for a barbecue with a few other friends. We met his wife and kids. Our children played together, and we all had a good time. I even helped cook with he and his wife. It doesn't help that my job at a startup is incredibly demanding, and her work is also busy and high pressure. Fast forward to last night. I got home from work around 9:30 p.m. and she was in the shower. I had this gut feeling to check her phone. Yes, I know it's wrong. You can judge me. What stood out was that there wasn't a single text thread with he, which seemed odd since she mentions him periodically. I logged into our family phone plan account and checked billing details, and that's when my heart broke. Almost daily for the past 7 to 8 months, except maybe Sundays, she had been texting P multiple times. They also had calls, usually once a day. When she got out of the shower, I confronted her, and that's when she admitted everything. They met through the work-related program and attended out-of-town training sessions every couple of months. She swore on our children's lives that they never crossed any physical boundaries. But this had been going on for 7 to 8 months, and there had been 4 to 5 overnight work events where they stayed in hotels. Seeking advice. Should I believe her when she says they never became physical? What should I do now? She apologized repeatedly, but I feel like it's more regret for being caught than genuine remorse. I also feel strongly that his wife has the right to know. It doesn't feel fair that I'm the only one suffering while his wife is unaware. My wife, however, insists we keep it between us and try to work through it. Through the barbecue, I got his wife's email and phone number. Any advice is appreciated. I cried myself to sleep last night, something I haven't done in a long time. I just hope I can move past this. Edit. She later admitted they kissed and touched, but claimed they never went further. I'm devastated and don't know what to believe anymore. Edit 2. His wife now knows. She left me a voicemail confirming she's aware and said she's handling it the best she can, but isn't ready to hear every detail I know. Update. 2 weeks after the discovery, my curiosity got the better of me. I accessed her email account and found old messages between them. She didn't realize deleted emails linger for a while. I discovered they had been intimate since January. She even used our family email signature on her love notes to him. A few weeks ago, in one of my obsessive questioning phases, she drank too much and confessed more details. They'd been intimate 3 to 4 times during their work trips. They snuck around in the evenings. No protection was used, and he didn't pull out. They claimed the affair would end in May. Clearly, it didn't, because they were still exchanging emails and texts in early June. This has caused me so much pain. Seeing pregnant women makes me panic, fearing she might have gotten pregnant. Thankfully, she didn't. I've had obsessive thoughts about their intimacy, like who initiated it, how it started, and even explicit details. But I realize knowing these answers would only fuel my pain, so I've chosen to let go of these questions. She has been deeply remorseful, shedding many tears and offering countless apologies. She tries to comfort me when I have flashbacks, but when my pain becomes overwhelming, she retreats. The guilt becomes too much for her, and she says she just wants to punish herself for what she's done. Of course, I don't want that for her. Strangely, we've grown closer. We kiss, cuddle, and even make love daily, sometimes twice a day. The cold bedroom phase is over. She craves the attention I'm now giving her, and intimacy has felt natural. It's almost like we're dating again, which feels surreal. One night, I overstepped. She was exhausted and declined intimacy, and I lashed out, saying she didn't have the right to refuse me after giving herself to that guy. My words. She agreed to be available anytime, but I felt awful later and apologized. I told her I want her to want me, not feel obligated. She insists P means nothing to her now. She says she was lost, selfish, and only used him for attention. She claims she doesn't think about him unless I bring it up. I've made it clear that if anything like this happens again, I'll leave. She promises it won't and agrees to cut all contact with him. Despite everything, I still love her deeply, but I also know that if her heart doesn't fully belong to me, I'd rather let her go. I told her this. In the past week, my obsessive thoughts have subsided significantly, and I feel hopeful. We're in counseling and therapy, and I genuinely believe we have a strong chance to rebuild our marriage. We've learned to value each other and our relationship more than ever before. Strangely, as we focus on each other, we've noticed how many unhappy couples are around us, even among close friends. We're determined not to take each other for granted again. If only people knew what we've been through.